All right, my secondary math 2 class, we are going to be continuing to talk about graphing quadratics. Up to this point, we've only graphed them in what's called standard form. It looks like this. Okay, well today we're going to be talking about a different form. It's called vertex form, and it's actually a lot nicer. Okay, we did the hard part first. Okay, so let's go ahead though and get right into 1 and 2. So it's asking us to find the vertex of each quadratic function. Now, remember, these guys are actually written in standard form. Okay, 1 through 4 on your notes are written in standard form. And that is ax squared plus bx, sorry, you couldn't see that for a second, plus c. Okay, so standard form looks like this. We're going to learn a new form that looks a little different. Okay, so first thing we want to do is always identify our A, B, and C. Okay, so this means that my A is 1, that invisible 1. My B is -2, and my C is -2 as well. Okay, well, in order to find the vertex, we need our mini formula. Okay, remember what that mini formula is? X is equal to -b over 2a. Okay, so that's how we find the x part of our vertex. So let's go ahead and plug that in. X is equal to -b over 2 times a. Okay, now I just plug in what I know. If b goes on top, then I know my b is -2. Okay, a goes on bottom. I know my a is 1, so let's figure out what this actually is. Okay, on top I have a double negative. Double negatives turn into a positive, so +2 on top. 2 times 1 is just 2. So we know that the x part of our vertex is 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Okay, so for number 1, we're looking for our vertex. The x part, remember it's always listed as x comma y. Our x part was 1. Okay, and now in order to find y, we need to plug that x back into our formula. Okay, so now I have y equals, and everywhere I see an x, I'm just going to put a space. X squared minus 2 times x minus 2. Okay, and everywhere we have a space, we're going to plug in that 1. 1 and 1. Okay, now we have to solve it from left to right using PEMDAS. What is 1 squared? 1 times 1. It's going to give me 1. What's -2 times 1? -2. And minus 2 more. And what are we going to get? We can use a calculator. You can definitely punch this in if you'd like. Okay, we can do 1 minus 2 minus 2. And that gives me -3 for my y part. So my final answer for my vertex, 1, -3. Okay, number 2, A, B, and C. Okay, we don't need to write it out. We'll just plug it into our mini formula. X is equal to -b over 2 times a. Okay, well, my b goes on top. What is my b? My b is -8. 2 times a on bottom. What's my a? 1. Okay, so on top I have a double negative again. So that turns into a +8. 2 times 1 is 2. What is 8 divided by 2? We get 4. So we know for our vertex, the x part is 4. Okay, well now let's use that x part to plug it in and solve for y. Okay, so now I have y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 20. And everywhere I see that space, I'm going to plug in 4. Okay, 4 squared minus 8 times 4 plus 20. Okay, let's figure out what these numbers actually are. What is 4 squared? 4 times 4. 16. What is negative 8 times 4? Negative 32. And plus 20 on the end. We can go ahead and punch this into our calculator. 16 minus 32 plus 20 equals 4 as well. So our vertex actually came to be 4, 4. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and do the same thing on 3 and 4, except we're going to graph them after we find the vertex. Okay, so I have my A, B, and C. Plug it into my mini formula. X is equal to negative B over 2 times A. Okay, my B is on top. My B is negative 4. A is 1 again. Double negative, so that turns into a positive 4 on top. 2 times 1 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so the X part of our vertex we found is positive 2. Okay, now I'm going to plug that 2 in everywhere I see an X in my function to find Y. So I have Y equals X squared minus 4 times X plus 6. Okay, well, we found X to be 2, so 2 and 2. So now we can solve. What is 2 squared? 2 times 2, 4. Negative 4 times 2, negative 8. And plus 6, we can punch this into our calculator. 4 minus 8 plus 6 equals positive 2 as well. Okay, so our vertex came out to be 2, 2. So let's go ahead and graph that. Okay, so always find your x-axis first, so it lines up with positive 2 and goes up to positive 2. So there's my vertex. Now we just use our little trick, up 1 over 1 and up 3. 1, 2, 3 over 1. Mirror it on the other side, up 1 over 1 and 1, 2, 3 over 1. Connect those with a U shape, arrows on the end, and we are done. Beautiful. Okay, one more time in standard form. So I have my A, B, and C. Plug it into our mini formula. A equals negative B over 2 times A, or X equals negative B over 2 times A, excuse me. B goes on top. My B is negative 6. A goes on bottom. My A is 1. Okay, again, we have a double negative. It turns into a positive 6. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, so we found that the X part of our vertex is positive 3. Okay, so now I can plug 3 in everywhere I see an X to find my Y. So Y equals X squared minus 6 times X plus 8. Okay, so I have my X is 3, so everywhere I have that space, I'm going to plug in a 3. 3 squared, or 3 times 3, is 9. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. And plus 8. Okay, let's go ahead and punch this into our calculator. 9 minus 18 plus 8 is negative 1. So So for my y part of my vertex, we got -1. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. We're going to find +3 on our x-axis and down to -1. Okay, now we can go up 1 over 1 and up 3 over 1. Mirrored on the other side, up 1 over 1 and up 3 over 1. And there we go. Okay, so that was graphing and finding the vertex in standard form. Now we are going to find the vertex in vertex form. Okay, give me 1 second. I just want to check something really quick to make sure I do this right. Okay, so vertex form. Let's go ahead and write vertex form because we wrote standard form up here. Okay, vertex form is written as y equals a, so we still have an a, parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So that is our vertex form. Okay, well, vertex form is really awesome because it actually tells us our vertex. Our vertex in vertex form is h, comma, k. So whenever you see these, h's and the k's will be filled with numbers. They won't be h and k anymore. Same with a. Okay, it's going to be really easy to identify our vertex. Okay, so if we look at number 5, we know that our A is always in front of our parentheses, H is inside the parentheses, and K is on the end. Okay, well, all it's asking us to do is identify the vertex. Okay, remember, vertex is H, comma, K. But notice, in our formula, in the form, notice this negative sign. That means whatever number is inside the parentheses, okay, this is time it's a +2, you actually change the sign. That's what that negative is doing. So our H, comma K, remember our H, change that sign. So instead of a +2, it becomes a -2. K has a plus, so we don't have to change that sign. So it's +1. And that is all we're doing for 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so let's do it again for 6. A is in front of my parentheses, H is inside the parentheses, and K is on the outside. Okay, my vertex is always H, comma, K. Okay, with the H, do we keep the sign or do we change it? We change it. So our H is -1. And our K is -3. Remember, we don't have to change the sign on our K. And easy peasy. Okay, so let's do the same thing on 7. A is in front of my parentheses. Oh, in this case, A is 2. H is inside, K is on the end. Okay, well, we're asked to identify the vertex. Vertex is always H, comma, K in vertex form. On the H, do we keep the sign or do we change it? Is it a +1 or a -1? We change that sign, so it's a -1. Okay, we keep the same side, so it's, or same sign, excuse me, so it's -2. Okay. 8, A is in front of my parentheses, H is inside the parentheses, and K is on the end. Okay, so let's identify our vertex. Vertex is always H, comma, K. My H is -1 because we changed the +1 to a negative, and the K stays the same, so +3. And that's it. Okay, vertex form, like I said, is really nice. We don't have to really solve anything for the vertex. It literally tells us the vertex, okay? H, comma, K. -1, comma, -3. The only thing we have to remember is that that sign with our h changes. Okay? So go ahead and flip your notes over or go to the next page. Now, all we're going to do, watch how easy this is going to be. We're asked to graph the quadratic functions in vertex form. Okay, well, identify A, H, and K. So first, let's identify our vertex because that's the first thing we have to put on our graph. Okay, so remember it's H and K. Okay, my H, is it going to be a +3 or a -3? Does the sign on the H change or stay the same? Remember, the sign on the H changes, so that's going to be a -3. And my K, +2, we keep the same sign, so just +2. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. So find -3 on your x-axis. Always find your x first, and go up to +2. Okay, and now it's the same trick because our A is still just 1. So up 1 over 1, and up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Up 1 over 1, 1, 2, 3 over 1. And that is all we had to do. So much easier than standard form. All we had to do was identify the vertex and use our little trick. Okay, so last example. Let's do that one more time. So I have A, H inside, K on the outside. Let's identify the vertex. Okay, the vertex is always H for our X, K for our Y. H is on the inside of my parentheses. Do we keep that sign or do we change it? Remember, we changed the sign on our H, so that is going to go from a -3 to a +3. Whoops, sorry, totally just bumped my phone. And then we have our K. Do we keep that sign or do we change it on our K? We keep it, so that's going to stay a -3. Okay, easy peasy. Now all we got to do is put it on our graph. Okay, so find +3 on your x-axis, and then go down to -3 on your y-axis. Easy peasy. Now just use our trick. Up 1 over 1, 1, 2, 3 over 1. Up 1 over 1, 1, 2, 3 over 1. Connect those with a U, and we are done. Good job, you guys.